Hello.
Howdy.
We are bewitched today.
Mm-hmm.
Good thing it's not the 1600s.
If it was the 1600s, I would have been taken out a long time ago.
Yeah, me and you both. So hello everybody. This is Michelle with Moksha Grace Coaching. And this is Moment of Presence. And we have a really fun topic today, in case you can't tell that I'm super excited about it, have been for a while. And I am joined with the lovely
Hi,
Chris.
everyone. I'm Krista Barone with Wicked Wisdom Consulting. I'm a fractional COO and ops professional when I'm not wearing a witch hat. And
Well, it is Wicked Wisdom Consulting.
it is Wicked Wisdom. And actually, it's so funny because one I usually get, are you from Boston? Are you a witch? Where'd the wicked come from? And the answer is none of that, but maybe it is today.
Maybe it is today. So yeah. So today's topic is we're afraid of the witches. And what prompted this? Obviously, it's Halloween, but what prompted this is I was reading an article months ago, because we planned this literally months ago, about a teacher who wanted to do an experiment in her class, and it's a thing. They've been using this experiment, and what happened was uh, they divide the room in half, and the teacher tells one student that there are a few students that there's a witch, somebody's a witch, and that they have to figure out who's the witch. And you watch this classroom of kids that like each other all of a sudden turn in to a divided classroom where they're calling each other names and calling people out and making assumptions about people. And then at the end of the experiment, it was nobody was told they were a witch, that they were all making assumptions.
Yeah.
And it's just a way to teach about the destruction and the harm of judgment and bias, prejudice, and how dangerous it is.
And it also shows you, the theme that we've been talking about in the last few episodes of last couple of weeks on both shows, which is how much people can be manipulated when emotions are involved. It's also the same sort of thing that happens in cults. When, the very famous one, is it Jamestown? They started even telling the kids, hey, if you hear your parents, saying anything against the commune, you need to come and tell us. Like they turn kids against parents, parents against kids, sisters against brothers, parents against kids. Like it was, that's even cult behavior.
Yeah, absolutely. What was that movie is it M Night Shyamalan? The one that it's supposed to be a scary movie, but I don't want to give away the end. But it ends up that it's more of a cult situation. Like they're living in this small town. I can't think of the name of it right now. If anyone's watching and knows exactly what I'm talking about, just post it in the comments. Welcome for those of you that are joining us today. This is a serious topic. I mean, we're making light of it kind of in a way, but
You
it
introduced
really,
it as fun, so
well, it it's fun because I got to put my witch hat on. Um, but it's a way to really talk about this and be brutally honest about what happens when we prejudge, and what comes from it. I mean, just the fact that we're on here wearing witches hats, there could be people that won't watch us again because
I guarantee you there are.
we have witch hats on. But
Mhm.
really? Or, you know,
I mean, listen, there's still people that believe that witchcraft is demonic in some way or evil or negative. And what I personally find hysterical is almost every Christian, Catholic, those are the ones I'm familiar with. I'm not familiar with the others, but most of those traditions and holidays and things like it's all based on what we would call witchcraft.
mhm.
And it's very interesting that it's been turned into this very demonic thing because it's actually, and as with anything else, it's so incredibly based on intention. And are there those that may use witchcraft with negative intentions? Of course, just like there are those who would use anything with negative intentions. The same can
um,
be said, but it's
religion.
very, very interesting because most, like I said, most holidays, most um, religious activities. I mean, look at
Mhm.
what we do typically when we go into a church. We light a candle, we put it on an altar, we say some words with it. Where do we think that that came from? It wasn't
We
from the
kiss an
church.
icon
We
in the Greek church. You
Yep.
kiss an icon, and God only
These
knows
are
what
all
germs are
things
there. Right.
that were, shifted and twisted and not twisted in a bad way per se,
Mhm.
but twisted and molded to fit a new ideology, but it all comes from the same place.
Yes, yes. And hey, Adam, thanks for joining us. And yes, we're spooky today. We're getting closer and closer to Halloween. Um, and and it's so interesting just even to talk about the different traditions of Halloween in the different cultures, and
Hmm.
that's a completely different show. But um, you know, in Mexico, it's very much, the Day of the Dead is very much almost like a Yom Kippur, in the sense of you're thinking about your loved ones that have transitioned,
Hmm.
to remember them
Hmm.
and to be in peace with them where they are, the life, and really celebrate that. And so, hey, Jenny. And so it's always interesting to me that when you talk to people, if somebody sees a crystal, hello, oh my gosh, what, a crystal, like, oh, you believe in that stuff? Or what, tarot cards, oh dear goodness gracious, a pendulum, and it's people are fearful.
Even burning incense, some people have been taught that that's not
Absolutely.
okay. And I think the
Absolutely.
key word here is these are things that people are taught to believe in a certain way by using emotional manipulation and components to it to get you to believe in a certain way. The entire basis of these thoughts that are against things like witchcraft is all based on a fear of opening yourself up to something negative, a fear of doing something wrong with that power, a fear of having power to make changes to your surroundings and energy and all of that. It all stems from fear, which is what the entire witch hunt was about. These people were
Mhm.
afraid of these women and some men who were able to do
Mhm.
things that the average person just simply wasn't tapped into. And I think that's really the key here is it's just a
Yes.
matter of tapping into these skills or not. And in the write up for this, we said, in today's world, the equivalent, like
Hmm.
example is basically like some of these Facebook hacks that we see, or TikTok hacks and stuff. That's basically like someone doing that today, where you're like, oh my god, that's crazy. They would have been part of the witch hunt
Right.
back when. But that's how crazy it was. Oh,
Yeah.
you can read, you're a witch.
Yeah.
Oh, you said that tomorrow it was going to rain and it did, you're a witch.
Yeah. Or you gave me some tea and I
Mhm.
now feel better.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, that's some black magic, man. Woo!
Well, and we
When
saw.
really it
Go ahead.
probably was something that was passed down from generation to
Mm-hmm.
generation in this like beautiful old recipe book by some grandmother writing out, like, if you take this herb and
Mm-hmm.
you put this together and it's going to make you feel, and it's considered witchcraft,
Mm-hmm.
but it's natural. It's
Yeah.
all natural. And I'm sorry, who created nature?
Mm-hmm.
Who created the plants? Who created the crystals? Who created fire? I mean, seriously,
Mm-hmm.
whatever you believe in, God, divine, source. So, why are we afraid of the witches that are tapping into nature and helping to cure people or help them move through situations, facing their fears, getting over things, helping them fix situations, versus the people that use their fear against them and freaking burned them. So 40 to 60,000 people, 40 to 60,000 people in the witch trials,
Primarily women.
primarily women. And what one of not it's not my favorite, absolutely not. Enter witch cackle here. Huh? It's Raymond.
Don't, please don't do that again. If you're not on Facebook, you don't see the comment. One of our regular tune-inners, our regular watchers, Raymond has arrived.
Yes, Raymond
Oh,
has
hi, Tammy.
arrived. Hi, Tammy. Um, so I've lost my train of thought completely.
Well, one of
Witch
the interesting
cackling.
things too that I thought was that I always think is interesting is back during the witch hunt there was also that concept of, so we're going to tie you to this rock and throw it in the river, and if you untangle yourself that means you are a witch and we'll burn you, but if you don't untangle yourself then that means you weren't, and at least you're proven innocent, but
You're
you'll still be dead.
right. I'm like, but you're dead. But you're not. Your whole
So we can
family.
see that there was not a lot of logic used, probably because those that had logic were called witches.
Right. Right. And yet we say again, but they were afraid of the witches, not the people judging the people that didn't understand what was happening in these natural way of treating situations, and just said, well, you're different from us, so we're going to burn you.
I mean, listen, we want to look at present day examples, which I think is a very good thing to do, because we all, in these situations, very similar to things like the Holocaust, things like when slavery was active in this country, many other things. We always have a tendency to go, oh, I would never have allowed that to happen. Oh, I would have absolutely stood up
Mm-hmm.
and spoken out against it. There's no way I would have been okay with that. Present day example, what happened a few years ago with the injections that were made mandatory.
Yep.
Most people in this country
Mm-hmm.
didn't stand up against the mandatory uh, orders about that. Most people said, you are a terrible person and you are going to die in winter because you didn't get this thing that's protecting me.
Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, if you feel like telling your story, what did that lady say to you in the grocery store
I
when
don't
you?
really want to talk about what she said to me, but there was a
Okay.
woman who followed me around the store and harassed me because I wouldn't wear a mask. I don't think she would have stood up against the witches. I don't think she would have stood up for those that were murdered during the Holocaust
Right.
or the slaves back in the day. She wouldn't have done that.
No.
But I'm sure she's one of the first people to say that.
Yeah. And it's not about, it's about
Oh,
your own.
by the way, we are throwing out all sorts of words that this video may not make it long. So,
Yeah. Well, yeah. Uh, what we have to remember here is everyone has choices to believe what they want. What you don't have the right to do, or you shouldn't, is to judge other people for where they are or what their belief is. and then wish them ill because it's different from yours. So,
I would
you know,
almost, I would shift that a little bit. In my, for the average person,
mhm,
I would shift that a little bit. You can judge all you want. Do your thing. That judgment is, that's on, that just, all judgment does is come back to you. That's all judgment
mhm,
does. But you have no, I don't think anyone has a right to dictate how other people live or die
yeah,
based on something that is entirely opinion based. And I mean, listen, we could argue that everything's opinion based, but we can see where there's some clear ethical lines. So let's not go down that whole loophole.
right. Or
Um,
based on what they don't understand.
right. But is judgment good for our energy? Does judgment make us more successful? Does judgment make us happier? Does judgment make us more relaxed? No. But is it better than prosecuting people or killing them because they do something that you don't believe in? No, it's not worse than that. If that's what you need to do to get through your day, do your thing.
It's
But
gonna
it's
weigh
probably,
it's gonna weigh you down like a
yeah,
rock weighed a witch down.
oh
But do it if that's what you it's certainly not going to make you feel better.
yeah. Hmm.
And a lot of people, don't. I talk to clients a lot, and there's a very fine, it's not even a fine line. It's the same thing when you expect somebody to behave in a certain way and they let you down. Well, they disappointed me. That is a form of judgment because you had expectations on someone else based on what you feel is right or wrong. So that does come from a place of judgment.
Hmm.
It comes from a place of, well, you're different. You should be like me because, I'm great, and so you should be more like me, and since you're not, I'm going to be upset with you, and you disappointed me because you didn't act the way that I think you should have.
Hmm.
That's judgment. And a lot of people don't realize that that's judgment.
Yeah.
Your expectations of others, there's no place for that.
Hmm.
Everybody is on their own journey, everyone's on their own timeline, and if they're not at the same space you are. It's not even a level. This isn't a race. We're
Hmm.
all going to go to the same place eventually. We don't have to race to get there. We're all going in the same direction. The paths we take are going to be different and they're going to feel different.
Yeah.
And if you want to be the judgy expectation, you behave my way or the highway, go for it. I'm going to be like chill as much as possible. I'm not perfect. Chill. I'm going to do it my way. If you want to know, ask. I'm happy to talk to you about it. But this kind of stuff where we judge other people for their beliefs, even when I don't agree with their beliefs, it's still their belief. And that's okay. Be dedicated to it. I said that to somebody the other day. I'm like, listen, if you want to go that route, then go that route. Be dedicated, be committed to it. Don't wiggle back and forth though. Make a decision, choose, and go for it.
Hmm.
Whatever way you decide to go.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just going to flip flop and then you get nowhere.
Yeah.
So, what happened to all those people that judged and killed 40 to 60,000 people?
They probably died from the plague like a year and a half later. Or maybe like, I don't know, died from like diarrhea or something. Something super basic. I mean, they only had what, like a 40-year lifespan back then? Maybe.
I
I mean,
mean,
that's pushing it.
they could have died from something that probably the witches could have helped them with. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm just
Well,
saying.
oh, that was one of the things I wanted to mention was what's interesting about that too is, and Pirates of the Caribbean reflects this beautifully. Actually, the fifth movie, Dead Men Tell No Tales, is as much as so many women were and a couple and some men were persecuted, they always, those in power always kept a few around because they knew the power that they had. They knew the knowledge that they were aware of. And I bring up Pirates of the Caribbean because it shows this very beautifully, not beautifully, because she is locked in a cave and, but they show it well, which is the Crown of England has a witch in a basement locked away so that they can go to her with their questions and they
Hmm.
want, certain spells done and all sorts of things. So they also were throwing people in prison and beheading them for that
Hmm.
behavior and abilities, but they also made sure to keep a few around because they knew that they were not bad. They knew that they were not to be feared, but they also knew that it would empower the people too much.
Right.
And we could also say that those same people, you know what happened to them actually? I know what happened to them. They had multiple generations of children who became today's leading journalists. Because the media is today's 18th, 17th century
Yeah.
townsfolk who are just persecuting everyone that they don't feel is right based on their own opinions.
And that's absolutely, that is true. I didn't even think about it like that.
I
And
would love to see their genealogy.
yeah, that's a really good point. And then you have those of us that have tapped into our gifts or gone on a journey of enlightenment, and we're on that path, and we want to be open, right, to whatever, the
We
light,
could call
the
conspiracy
gifts,
theories today's witches.
conspiracy, exactly. We want to be open to anything and everything that's out there,
Mm-hmm.
and yet we're fearful. And why are we fearful? Probably because we were burned at the stake years ago, and we're remembering that past
Hundreds of
uh,
years ago.
hundreds of years
Make
ago.
it sound like it was like back in the 70s.
Well, I mean, it was the
Well,
70s,
maybe
but
the
it was
1770s.
1770s. But
This
we
is
have
really
that.
not funny at all, by the
It
way,
is
at
not.
all.
It is not. But generationally, this is passed down.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you have somebody who is so talented and so gifted, whether they can sing well, whether they're a great artist, whether they garden and they have a great green thumb,
They cook great.
right?
They
They
do
cook
wonderful
great,
healing natural medicine,
right? They
aromatherapy.
they may be afraid to come out because they have this PTSD that's generational from literally being part of the witch hunt.
What's interesting is there really is some interesting science coming out, actually, very much proving that there is trauma that can be passed from many generations down, and it's very very interesting
Hmm.
that's now being proven and isn't just something that's like, well, we suspect it. It seems like no, they're actually like genuinely finding the science with that now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, Raymond. That's exactly right. News media is very much driven by ratings rather than the truth. And I mean, listen, the amount of car accidents that happen compared to not, I'm sure is a very low number, a very low percentage, maybe probably even a percentage of a percentage. But we only see the car accidents. They don't show us the good driving. The amount of celebrities that are still alive is a
Hmm.
lot, but we only hear about the ones who pass. We only hear about the shootings, not all the wonderful things that are happening. The
Right.
kids being declared cancer free, the kids, young adults graduating from college, the kids that are graduating high school early because they did so well, the couples that are getting married and engaged, new babies, pregnancy announcements. I mean, there's so many beautiful things in the world, but the news doesn't cover them. And if they do, there's definitely an ulterior motive to go along with it.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. And so the same can go along with elections,
Hold on, one more thing
politicians.
with that. I'm sorry. One more thing about the news, really quickly. For those of you that are like, yeah, but it's still the news. I need to know what's happening. this is also something that has literally been proven, that those who watch the news are more depressed, more anxious, more mental health issues,
Mm-hmm.
their health decline. This is all stuff that is literally, if you don't believe me, Google it for yourself. It's not that hard to find, but that is an actual proven thing, that watching the news is, it literally lowers your energetic vibration and can make you physically ill. All right.
And we've actually seen that,
Oh
because
yeah.
there were two past family members that recently passed in the last couple years, one this year, that all they did was watch the news.
And
And
if
they
it's
and they
not the
believed
news, it was
ev-
the like hyper dramatic programming that comes on before or after the news.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Well, it must be true because it was on the news. It must be true.
Or
And
it
it's
must
like,
not be true because it wasn't on the news. Well,
where are you getting your news?
I mean, most people haven't heard that there's a major wildfire that's been burning in Utah.
What?
Most people haven't heard that there's been hundreds of chicken farms that have burnt to the ground. All of those animals perished in the fires. How weird.
Yeah.
Most people haven't heard that Flint, Michigan still doesn't have clean water. Most people haven't heard that in North Carolina, that just got drowned out by the floods, there's a major lithium mine that they just filed some, I believe it was insurance paperwork right
Mhm.
before the hurricane hit.
And if I'm not mistaken, also quartz, right? That's
Course,
where
and
quartz.
lithium. Hmm. There's a
Interesting.
lot of things not covered by the news.
Interesting
Hmm.
that area was so destroyed,
Hmm.
and yet it's not really being covered the same way.
As Raymond commented, it's all about death, despair, and fear. How can we get the people more desperate and more fearful? And why? Hint, we've talked about it Monday and the last week. I thought you were going to guess. When
Wow.
you can get people emotional, when you can play on their emotions, it makes them more moldable. It makes them more dependable on you. It makes them easier to coerce and manipulate. And how do
Yes.
you do that? News
You,
media.
and you trigger them. You trigger their fear. You trigger that reaction. You trigger that flight or fight or
Fight or
flight.
flight. Mm-hmm.
And yeah, because if it comes from love, imagine, just if you will,
Okay.
imagine 40,000, 60,000 people who were potentially witches.
Mm-hmm.
They were 40,000 to 60,000 gifted, amazing, enlightened people
Mm-hmm.
that tapped into their God given gifts
Mm-hmm.
of healing and growing plants that could help and nurture and putting together elixirs and all of these amazing things, right? Imagine if the townsfolk, instead of burning them, just got curious. It was like, I'd like to learn about that
Hmm.
because you seem really healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Or, wow, your skin glows.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, okay, so maybe it was the eye of Newt, but who knows? But my point is that what if you got curious about it instead of wanting to take them out
Mm-hmm.
because they were doing things differently? And who were they harming exactly? What were they doing that was so bad that they had to burn them at the stake? What? There was a black cat? I mean, I what is it that they were so afraid of? I mean,
Well, if
was
I'm
it
not mistaken, it was literally even like if someone had an accident and you were standing nearby, you it would be, oh, she's a witch, she caused it.
mm.
So in some
And
cases, they really did believe that.
yeah, and there probably are some, not so great. I mean, we're not saying that every person that has gifts use them in the way that they should, because there are some that may be malicious and ill intent. We're not saying that, but what we're saying is you don't know what you don't know, and so you don't just go, well, let's just burn them all. You got to do some more research, people. You got to look into things. You got to look into people's past. You got to look into their what do they do? What do they do in front of you, and what do they do behind closed doors? Are they authentic? Are they who they say they are? Yes, it's all about control and power. And isn't the same thing happening now?
Hmm.
How many, and again, doesn't matter what side you believe on as far as, the pandemic. Well, if we I don't know, can we use that word? I don't know.
I've already said death, burning at the stake,
Right.
Holocaust. I mean, every word that could possibly be bad, I've basically said already. So
So
whatever.
so there was you could take a jab, or you could take a kind of
Nothing.
a cocktail or nothing, or you could, if you were around somebody that had a cough, I mean, people get sick, you would take, which is what we do, vitamin C, quercetin, um,
Elderberry.
black elderberry, zinc. Like, there's
What
like a
about
little,
everybody? I
oh
must
my
be a witch
gosh.
because I take supplements.
We take all natural supplements, oh my gosh.
We wouldn't
And
say that nowadays, but we would have back then.
well, and so who is the most afraid of the natural supplements?
The pharmaceutical companies.
Oh my goodness, because why? Because they'll lose money.
Actually, so there's a really great example of this that's now come up twice in the last 24 hours. So it must mean I have to say this. And maybe I did already on a previous episode, but I'm going to say it again. A perfect example of this is there's a supplement called red yeast rice, and it is referred to as nature's statin. Now, if you don't know what a statin is a drug that helps to lower your cholesterol. Now, red yeast rice is actually what the pharmaceutical version of statins are based off of. But yet, red yeast rice is so effective that the statin manufacturers pushed the FDA to make it so that any red yeast rice supplement could not contain over a certain percentage of the active ingredient, because they're protecting the people, because it's too effective. AKA, we want you to have to take our statin drugs that were made in a pharmacy, so that and a lab somewhere, because then you get to pay us for that instead of using what nature provides you, because that's dangerous. But you should take our
Right.
created statin in a lab because that's safer.
Yeah.
Huh?
Huh?
What?
It,
Excuse
it
me?
it doesn't make sense. I mean, not only, okay, so moment of presence, we talk about ourselves, our internal, harmony, our internal family. Moment of presence is about
Just made me take a
learning
deep breath
more
just hearing
about
you.
ourselves. Yes. Taking that deep breath. We have everything inside of ourselves that we need to feel better,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's emotionally and physically.
Mm-hmm.
They're tied together. They have everything to do with each other. If you're not feeling good, if there's something that is a dis-ease that you have, give me a call. Let me look it up in my metaphysical book, and I will read you the pages, and you can pick which one resonates with you, and I guarantee you it will be spot on, because
Mm-hmm.
every time I've done it, it has been spot on.
Yeah.
And there is an our emotions affect us physically.
Yeah.
And when we can get a hold of our emotions and manage our emotions, being more concerned with how we feel. Yes, I know it sounds selfish, but guess what? It is one of the most unselfish things that you can do, because when you're right, everyone around you in your environment will feel it and be able to benefit from it.
Real quick. And by when you're right, she means when you feel your best, when you're emotionally
Yes.
regulated, when you're
Not as right or wrong, but when
right,
you
not a moral
feel,
conundrum.
yes, right. Thank you. Oh, I said right again. Should I say left?
That's great. Oh man. So okay, let's talk about and then because I don't want this episode to go too long. But what then can we do? There's a lot of cases again where we think that we would be the person that would stand up against these injustices. And yet we've had many examples in the last, I'm just going to call it 20 years, where we've seen that
Mhm.
that's not true for a lot of people.
Right.
Um, so what can we do to see through the noise? What can we do to know when something is more of a witch hunt or not?
Mhm.
What can we do about it?
Well, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take some deep breaths.
Okay, let's do it.
So we're going to clear our energy
Mm-hmm.
and we're going to take a deep breath in and you're going to hold it and you're going to let go and release that. Just let it out. And then in the next in breath, I want you to feel through your body, around your body, from your toes all the way up. And just how do you feel internally? Do you feel light? Do you feel heavy? So deep breath in. Just kind of take inventory of how you feel. And then exhale. And take another deep breath in. And then just exhale. So when you're faced with a situation and you're unsure and there's different sides coming at you and you don't know what is the right way. A lot of people are going to be heading to the polls. Take some deep breaths in the car before you get out of the car and you go and you do your voting. Whatever side you're voting on. Do yourself a favor because you're going to get hit with different perspectives. And that's all it is. It's different perspectives. People believe differently. How they believe and what their perspective is theirs. And they are allowed to feel that way, just like we're allowed to feel our way. And so when you take your deep breaths, you bring yourselves into the moment. When something comes at you or someone shares something with you, when you're tuned in and you're in that place of calm, from that space, without the past, without the future, just in that space, you can actually feel, is what that person's saying making me feel heavier or lighter? And if it's making you feel heavy, there's something wrong with it. If it feels lighter and it feels correct to you,
Mm-hmm.
then that's a really good indication that whatever is being said or whatever is being presented makes sense and it resonates with you.
Mm-hmm.
And so that is one way that you can gauge what's happening. If you're in a situation where a bunch of people are peer pressuring you or bringing up things that just it doesn't resonate with you and it's making you feel bad and you literally feel like you're like crawling into yourself, get yourself out of the situation as much as you can, even if it's just to take a moment, take a pause. I need a second. Go to the bathroom. Do whatever you got to do, but walk away for a moment. Gather yourself. Bring yourself back into that moment. Get in touch with who you are internally. And then that's when you can get curious and say, okay, what about this doesn't feel right? Is it that they're pushing so hard? And that's something to really think about. Whatever someone's agenda is, when they're pushing really, really super hard and they're trying to bribe you with free things or bribe you with money or bribe you with whatever, you got to ask yourself why.
Mm-hmm.
Is this really good for me or is it good for them?
Mm-hmm.
Are they doing this out of love or are they doing it out of fear? And when you can ask yourself those questions and get curious, you can make a really good decision for you.
Mm-hmm.
And notice how I said that, a decision for you, because the decision may be right for me, may not be right for you, may not be right for somebody watching. And that's okay too. We
Mm-hmm.
have to be able to accept where we are, but we also have to be able to accept where other people are
Mm-hmm.
and let them be on their journey. Because that's ultimately what it is, their journey. And you
Yeah.
cannot take that journey away from them, and you can't go the journey for them. They have to do it themselves.
Yeah. And if I can add, if we're talking about bigger issues here, so things like the pandemic, things
Hmm.
like the election and political figures, things like whatever else might come up, the other thing you can do is look at both sides. Don't just
Hmm.
look at what the media is telling you, because there's always a bias. They say that there's not, there's
Right.
always a bias. Look at the opposite.
Hmm.
And then you can look at it from a logical perspective. Look at it from the perspective that you're talking about. Feel both. Which read one side, read the other side. Which feels more aligned with you?
Hmm.
Which one feels more correct?
Hmm.
That might be a little bit advanced for some people just because it's
Yeah.
really something, it's a skill that you have to practice and
Hmm.
you really have to kind of figure out what it means for you because it can be hard to differentiate. So the other thing is just looking.
Right.
Looking at both sides, not just picking one side and going, I like the sound of that, because the devil tempts you with stuff that sounds really good.
Yeah. And you have
It's
to
supposed to, because that's what entices you and that's what gets you round up and deciding to go a certain direction.
and you have to look at the potential outcomes too,
Mm-hmm.
because what it sounds like, it may sound okay, but what does it mean
Absolutely.
for a year from now, generations from now? What implications will it have? So it's not just the person, because I think we can all, I think we all can admit that we now know that whoever the president of the United States is not the actual person that runs the entire United States of America.
I don't know that that's common knowledge.
So
I
you're
don't
not
know about
so
that.
you're not just looking at just the specific person. It's this bigger overarching, what's happening around this group and what's happening around this group. Do I feel safe in this group if I were alone in a room with them? As a witch, probably not in one room. And in this one, I may feel a little bit more invited in, to at least have them be curious about what I could offer. I was trying to bring back the witch thing. Um, that may have just failed miserably, but my point is that who would you like to sit down and talk with? What group of people? Where would you feel comfortable? Who feels more like your tribe?
You can't really go based on that either. It's not about
Well,
anybody else. It's not about anybody else.
I mean, you're right, but it's also about what that.
Because that's just based on what someone puts out of who they are. It's not who they
Well,
actually are.
that's true.
You have
You got to feel into it.
everything has to be a decision that you make for yourself based on you. Other people are completely irrelevant. Completely irrelevant.
Good point. It's a very good point.
How other people are, what other people think does not matter at
Well,
all.
I was talking about who's running
But
and
even then it doesn't matter.
things and the things that come out of their mouth.
All it comes down to is, do the actions match the words?
That's a
All
very
it
good
comes
point.
down to is how much cleanup has to happen after something's said. All that matters is, well, if you promise this, does that mean my taxes are now going to be astronomical? If you promise this, does this now mean that North Carolina can't get the help that they need? If you promise this, does this mean that my kids won't have Social Security? If you promise this, what are the implications of that? That's what matters, because
Right.
that shows whether or not you're capable of thinking of the entire picture.
Yeah. No,
Otherwise, you're just like these overnight consultants that just say that they're professionals and they're not.
well, and that's a good point. And the other thing that I want to say on this is that as we're all going out and we're researching, hopefully, and making our choices, that on the other side of this, that there aren't witch hunts, that whatever happens is going to happen, and we, the people, remember that statement, we, the people, have to live, literally live within this land. And what do we, the people, want it to feel like? What do we, the people, want it to look like now and for the future? And that's something to think about. And there's so much BS going on and being said, and this person said this and this person said that, and just remember, this is not a witch hunt. Research. Don't judge, learn, get curious, know the options, know what's at stake, and understand that.
I also want to touch on Raymond's comment. That's not
Hmm.
always the way to go, because those who are really skilled at emotional manipulation are going to know how to match your vibe. They do that on purpose, specifically to get to you and get you to trust them,
Hmm.
and then they betray you. So, yes, but also no. Gotta be careful with that one.
Yeah, you got to be super, super careful. And someone that is so tuned in to their energy and their frequency might be able to tell the fakeness and sense it, but not everybody can do that. And so you do have to be careful about that. Know thyself. Know thyself.
Do the actions match the words? Do the words match the actions?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. So if you feel like you want to get to know yourself better, if you want to be more powerful in control of your emotions and your responses and your life in or amongst all of the chaos, then absolutely reach out, because that's what I help people do. And honestly, that's what you do too, is you help people be more calm and do what they love, even when and if their business is chaotic.
Sorry. Something about this show makes me yawn every week. I'm so sorry. But yes,
It's that
exactly.
exciting, everybody.
No, I think it's just that calming,
I
like our
know.
show. And if you want to get in touch with you,
Yes.
um,
mokshagrace.com.
and if you want to
And
book a compatibility call, mokshagrace.com/coaching.
yes, and what a compatibility call is that we're going to have a conversation. And thank you for joining us. Just another day in the life. Um, a compatibility call is just a conversation that we have to see what is it that's going on, and how can I be of help, and can I be of help, and
Yeah.
if I can, awesome, and if there's something that I think would be good, I'm going to send you in that direction as well. But I do have different levels of types of coaching. There's group coaching, there's individual coaching, there's short term, there's long term. It just depends on, again, what's happening with you, and it's customized for each individual, because not everybody needs the same thing. And how can people find you, Krista?
You can find me at wickedwisdomconsulting.com. Also
Mm-hmm.
on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all that good stuff. But on my website, you can book a call with me. Just call it a consultation.
Mm-hmm.
You can also book a networking chat if you feel like maybe we'd be good networking partners. You just want to kind of chat a little bit. There's the option to book that call as well. And you can find all my services, a little bit more about me, who I am, the work that I do, wickedwisdomconsulting.com. And I didn't throw your community link up there. I'm sorry. That is mokshagrace.com/community for the Odonata community.
Yes, Odonata community. And if you don't know what Odonata is, and hey, Hell, how are you? If you don't know what Odonata is basically the species word for.
Let me just real quick throw this caption up there, the comment, because without context, that sounded odd given our talk is about witches today. And you said, hey,
Good,
Hell. So, Hell is a friend of ours. Just for
good point. Very good point. Um, Odonata is a community where you can come, and it's a subscription based coaching platform, basically. And what you do is you join each week, and we talk about uh, coaching. And I coach based on the topic, or I extend tonight's topic. Tonight's topic is going to be more on judgment and self acceptance, and not expectations of others. And so that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. So the Odonata community is just a way for you to be in a group coaching environment and learn from each other. So, and
fabulous.
yes, I am looking forward to our conversation tomorrow. Um, Hell, because her and I are going to have a talk.
Woo! Love it.
So anyway, every day we can either have a really good day or a really bad day. It is all up to us. We get to make those choices. It's all about choices. Don't be the freaking judgment people that judge the witches and burn the witches. Mind your own self, your own emotions, make your own choices, and decide if you're going to have a good or a bad day. And
Yes.
that will affect other people.
Don't be the townsfolk with the pitchfork. Be
And
better.
all I see is kill the beast. I think of Beauty and the
I
Beast.
mean, Beauty, another great example of a witch hunt. There's
Absolutely.
always pitchforks involved.
There's always pitchforks and
Well, except in
fire.
today's day and age. Now it's just like microphones on channel 7, 8, 9.
Or they just take you down.
Well,
That's like the new burning is they just block you and take
cancel culture.
cancel culture. All right, so we love you. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for allowing us to bring this topic up. And yeah, have a wonderful rest of your day, and we will see you Monday for Shockingly Delightful. What is our topic?
Oh, I was not prepared. Hold on.
Oh, I thought for sure you had it up. I saw you
I
press
was
it.
going to, but I was excited because next Thursday we'll be on for Halloween.
Woo!
Um, so the next Shockingly Delightful. So on Monday we'll be talking about make good choices, please.
Okay.
And then next moment of presence, which is on Halloween, will be pick your poison.
What will we be dressed up as next week?
I was just thinking about that. I'm not prepared at all. Let's see what I can pull together in a week. Woo!
All right. Goodbye, you all. Thank you so much. And we'll see you next week.
Bye.
Oh, furry folk. We love furry.